Good afternoon. It's 3 o'clock-ish on a very damp, where are we? Thursday afternoon in heading a week today. It's Christmas Day. So it's December, so it's allowed to be damp. I've been delighted to be joined by BB Elsin today, who you may tell from the background writes historical fantasy. I like the rainbow and is that Christmas? No, in the corner.
It's a bit of shrapnel, well,
Ah,
flying debris.
okay. Anyway, we'll talk more about your covers a little later on. But we start as we always do. So fellow Buckinghamshire. So again, the last interviewee was Tony, and he was literally about a mile and a half away. So we're still within the same county of Buckinghamshire here, and so we start always at the beginning, welcoming you and asking if you can remember the first thing you wrote, whether you grew up reading and whether you did any writing as a youngster.
I can remember pestering my mum to teach me to read and write. That's probably my earliest memories of trying to form letters and uh, yeah, I got there. And as I was growing up, I liked books like the Famous Five series, Narnia, but I was also influenced by things that I saw on TV, Thunderbirds, Doctor Who. But I don't know whether you remember this. You probably don't because you're younger than I am. But there was a thing called the classic serial on a Sunday, and there was Alexandre Dumas with the Three
Musketeer.
Musketeers,
Yeah.
Jeremy Brett as a very dashing D'Artagnan.
Okay.
Um, and I was quite taken with this, and it got me interested in the period of the early 17th century. So at the age of 9, I asked my parents to buy me a book called Crown and Parliament for my birthday, and my mother was a bit aghast. Don't you ask for dolls or soft toys like other little girls? But there
Yeah.
we go. I mean, my parents got me the book, and I think from there I started to drift towards um, realism and factual pursuits in my writing,
Mm.
certainly. And in my reading, by the time I was a teenager, I was very much a devotee of social realism. I loved George Orwell. I loved Emile Zola. Um, and not surprisingly, I eventually became a business academic, and my writing expertise was academic journals and textbooks.
Mm. And presumably you find writing fiction more freeing? You can
In
you
some
can
ways,
do
yes, but
things like.
I mean, obviously, writing a textbook is blood, sweat, and tears, but it is quite a different blood, sweat, and tears
Mm.
from writing creatively. And I did work out when I decided I wanted to take on this challenge that I did have to learn about it because I didn't know and I didn't understand.
Mm.
Um, and also, as I started, I realized I thought I wanted to write historical fiction, but it was getting me into textbook mode. Because of course you have to research the historical period.
Yeah.
And so I took a leaf out of George R. Martin's book,
Mm.
who said, well, I did want to write a story set in the War of the Roses, but when I discovered how much research I'd have to do, I decided to make it a fantasy, and the result is Game of Thrones. So I thought, well, yes, that would enable me to do the exploration of character um, in a way that is freeing, as you say. So obviously, one still has to do a certain amount of research, but nowhere near as much as for historical fiction because you have the the freedom to create new environments around characters.
And you have one book out at the moment, which we'll come on to. When did you start writing that?
I started writing it in 2023.
Okay, quite
I
recently.
Yeah, quite recently. I semi-retired and I had a few health issues, and then I got a big whammy with sudden hearing loss.
Right.
And although some of it came back, I wasn't allowed to fly, and I was very difficult, found social situations very difficult. And this coincided with diagnosis of autism, which did explain a lot,
Right.
but added to the introspection. And at that time, I decided, well, if I'm going to be like this, then I need to have, if you like, imaginary friends that I can connect with every day.
Mm,
And so this is where the characters came from, and my need to create stories for them.
mm,
I started off joining writers groups and doing their exercises, very often short stories. Um, and I did realize also that going from a short story, maybe a scene that could be in a novel,
mm,
to the whole novel was another kind of huge challenge.
absolutely.
So hence why I started taking online courses to help me.
Right. Right. And do you still write? Do you write regularly? Do you still write? We're due to have a collection of short stories out next year, so we'll come on to that in a little while. But um, do you still write both, or do you find that you've stopped the short stories while you're concentrating on the novel? Because it's only been a couple of years since you started
Yeah,
the book.
yeah, I continue with the short stories because I continue with the camaraderie and support from my writers groups.
Mm.
And one of them has competitions, the other one just, every month we try and write to a theme.
Okay,
So I do that. I also like the challenge of haiku,
right,
um, which the essence of just capturing a moment,
yeah,
and I find doing that enormously helpful. I think there's a synergy between writing short form and writing long form. I mean, obviously they are different,
mm,
but you can use things that you learn in one situation to enhance the other, and vice versa.
mm. I mean, haikus are 17 syllables, aren't they? Five, seven,
That's
five.
right. Yeah. Very
And
short,
a lot of
designed to capture a moment.
yeah, a lot of people say that they've written novels for years and they had a go. If they've never written short stories, they've had a go at writing a short story and actually find it harder.
Hmm.
And I love them. If I could make a living out of just writing short stories, I would just. It's my element. I read because my day job's editing, so I read short
Oh,
stories for pleasure. So whenever I'm
all
out
right.
and about and I go to Oxfam and the likes, their bookshops, um, then I look at the short story. They usually have set a different separate section for short story collections, and if I haven't got it already, I'll buy it, and that's
Yes,
what
I
I
mean
read.
they are incredibly. I mean, yeah, I think you can do mindful reading with short stories, and
Mm,
that's the premise behind doing an anthology myself.
mm,
Um, yeah, it's more difficult with a novel. With a novel, you tend to kind of read quite fast, whereas with a short story, you can, be in the moment for every sentence.
mm. And do you read regularly? Do you find,
I
because I
did.
find
I
I used to find when I was reading, I'd read I'd read a chapter or two, and then a week or two would go by, and I'd have to backtrack so much to remind me what was happening. So, whereas most people, avid readers, they read so often they don't have to go back.
Hmm.
And this is why, as an editor, I have to make sure that there's a natural break at the end of the chapter, and it's clear from the beginning. if they've stopped at any of the chapters, that it's clear who they're picking up with. It doesn't
Uh-huh.
just have he at the beginning of a chapter, and it's things, it's little things like that. It is an art, as you were saying earlier on. You had to learn how to write
Mm.
fiction because it is an art.
Yes, yeah. Well, I when I'm reading, I mean, it varies. If it's a cozy crime and I'm reading it for pure entertainment, then I might read it in 2 or 3 sessions.
Mm,
Um, the more usual writing, which probably has a historical or fantasy basis, and maybe as chunky as some of these. This was sorry, I need to put it right
right.
in front of me,
Got it,
don't I?
yeah,
Um,
in front of you. We'll say, yeah.
oh, let's get it.
There we go.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
there we
Mists of
go.
Avalon,
Okay.
um, which is a fantasy book and quite chunky.
Mm,
Um, so with a book like that, you do have to concentrate because obviously there's a lot in it,
mm.
and there's uh, maybe with that, obviously it takes longer because it is longer, but also because I would take that in fairly small bites.
So you're perfectly fine with reading your genre, the genre that you write, because some authors won't. They
Really?
say, well, I can't read my genre because I think they were, I don't have a good enough memory, but I think they're a little bit worried that if they read something and even if it sinks in and it's in there somewhere, they're then concerned that if they come up with something that maybe they'd read it somewhere else,
Uh-huh.
and they put it in by mistake. Um, but I don't remember things well enough. If I like something, I'll write it down, make a notes in my phone, and
Mm.
then I'll say which book it's from, so I make sure I don't use it. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, you really have to have
Well,
chunks to plagiarize, but
um, I I do try to be different. I think I am instinctively quite different in what I want to do in the stories I tell. Um, I, an elderly friend of mine who wanted to buy my book, and I was a bit worried because, oh, well, there's violence in it, bad language, etc. And also, she said, "Oh, I'm a bit forgetful," and I was thinking, "Oh gosh, how's this going to work for you?"
fine.
And she wrote in her Christmas card to me, which really, really made my day, week, month, even.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed your book, one of a different kind.
Okay.
Yes, that's what I wanted. I wanted it to
Yeah.
be different.
Yes.
I mean,
But the
that's
thing
not
is,
always comfortable for the reader, but I mean, from an author's point of view, you do want your book to be identifiably different from the mass
your
of the
voice.
genre.
Yeah, but the thing is, you because there are some people I know who've written books and don't read or haven't written, and so you do have to. It's a bit catch-22. If you do
Mm,
have to read what you want to write to know really what the saying is, right from the market. Um, but equally, you want to be different. I'm quite quirky. I write quirky stuff, and so whether I kind of in a way am writing more commercially. My works in progress are more commercial, because I want to get an agent and still
mm,
remain self-published to do both. But you still can't guarantee to get your books in bookshops, but you have more of a chance if it's through an agent and then through a
mm,
publisher. So I'm kind of splitting, I think, in that respect. Um, but we will come to marketing, but I think you do have to know what you're doing, what's out there, and the kind of thing that people will
yeah.
like, and write your, as you say, write your version of it. You don't want to be exactly the same as someone else, but I think it'd be very difficult to be like that because you have your own voice, you have
Mm,
your style of writing, um, and having written even your textbook, um, then it's all practice. think it's all
Mm,
practice.
yeah.
So you've written your first draft. Maybe you've gone over it a few times, and who would it go to then? Do you?
Well, this is an interesting thing, and also something that was a bit of a surprise to me. But in hindsight, it makes sense. When I did an online course called Finishing Your Novel, the more or less the first thing they said was, "Okay, you've got a first draft. Now tear that up. Don't let anybody see it because
Right.
it will be rubbish." And I thought, "Oh no, I've let a couple of people see it."
Right.
And now I'm worried. So obviously, the people who had seen it did say, "Well, needs some finishing," um, but yeah, it became like my PhD.
Okay.
My PhD had to be edited, rewritten, changed, restructured again and again and again
Mm.
before I actually got to Viva. At which point, one of the examiners kindly said, "You've made a silk purse out of a sow's ear," because
Right.
my particular topic was a little bit, well, very niche. Um, uh, so I I accepted it in a way that perhaps I might not have done had I not had that experience of writing a PhD.
Mm.
I did a second draft. I went to a developmental editor to get advice on that. Um, I I also used the publisher's Troubadour's editing services.
Mhm.
By the time it went to print, it was probably the ninth edit.
Wow.
So it had um, changed quite a bit, all in a very positive way.
Mm.
Um, I mean, arguably, you could carry on editing and
Absolutely.
editing again, but you just get to the point where you think, get it out there. Okay, it's risky, um, but this is a continuous learning process.
Yeah.
Lots of people are, in hindsight, embarrassed by their first novels.
Mm.
Interestingly enough, with George Orwell, it was his third novel in which he tried to be experimental that was the one that he tried to stop being reprinted. But there we go. So it shows we'll still be learning when it comes to the third and
Absolutely. Well,
thereafter.
I'm on about my eighth, I think, because I've got the two women's fiction, two novellas, crime novellas, the one for the road, and several of the Henry series. And I'm still, when I write things, if I feel like I'm waffling, then I'll still write it, but I'll score it out. And then I know
Hmm,
that when I come back to it, how relevant it is.
hmm,
And I'm still, however many, because I've done all the other stuff as well, um, I still think I write not necessarily in first drafts, but if I'm not, I just get a vague idea and run with it. Then sometimes I think this is not going to go anywhere. So I think a lot of people, a lot of top authors go to festivals and people come up to them and buy a book and have a chat with them and say, "Oh, I've read everything you've ever written," and they go, "No, I have a lot of stuff that will never see light of day, and that will stay that way because it's terrible." And so I have a lot of
hmm,
that stuff, especially poetry, because I don't write poetry, but I have a lot of poetry that I've never done anything with, and will probably stay in folders because I've never learned how to write poetry, and so it's not my area of expertise by any means. But we do; it's all practice. I think it was Somerset Maugham
yeah.
who said, "You become a writer when you've written your millionth word," which is quite depressing. But then, if you've re-edited and re-edited and re-edited your book,
Hmm,
then you're probably halfway there just with that one book because
hmm,
you've gone through it and amended it so many times.
hmm.
So you've
Yes.
you've gone with Troubadour. Tell me about your cover. Was it one of
So
their designers who designed your cover? Do you have the book with you? You can show us.
I
We can see
do.
part of it behind you, but
So let
aha.
me see how this is going to work.
Yeah, I think
Probably
straight in front of
most of it now.
oh,
Oh, going away again. I'm probably it's the
that's
movement,
okay.
and now it's in front of my face, and it's too much like the background.
Oh, that's okay. We
Hey
we
ho,
get there. Yeah.
right there. Can I move it up a little bit further?
Oh
No,
no,
that's no,
that's okay.
that's a shame because at the bottom there is a little bit more detail of
Right.
if I
Oh
can get the
yes. Yeah.
other way around.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then I twist it.
Oh yes. Yeah, we had it there. Yeah,
Uh,
very good.
so this is a battlefield, and it's where the book starts because um, the the hero, instead of having a quest which normally means getting into wars and battles,
Mm,
he's done all that, and he now has a quest for peace.
right.
And so the rainbow is symbolic. The defeated enemy has a very classical quasi-druidic faith in which rainbows indicate that he is the victor. The god of war is blessing him.
Right.
Um, his faith is entirely different, almost enlightenment,
Right.
um, and so he's often trying to minimize his significance whilst he's trying to reach out to his defeated enemy. He's minimizing the significance that they put on him. So, um, so that's where the cover comes from. Um, and so, the cover, obviously, when you turn over, then you are into the scene where this moorland battlefield with the sea in the background and the rainbow eventually coming out to bless the victor.
Right. Right. And do they help you with marketing, Troubadour?
Well, if you pay for it, of
Right.
course.
Yes.
Um, and yeah, I mean, book marketing is so difficult because there's so much out there. Obviously, the big publishers have got the big budgets. In a way, it can only ever be a drop in the ocean.
Mm.
But hey, every little helps.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
yeah, I did sign up for some marketing services.
Mm. And you're setting yourself up online, I think the Instagram and the usual social media that but
Um, yes, I do have a very small presence on Instagram because I'm still learning how to do reels and stuff like
right.
that.
Yeah.
Um, I have a website, bblsin.com, and there's lots of material there, and a few extracts from the book. So an opportunity for people to try before they buy, although of course you can do that on Amazon as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It's the trouble is with social media is that you have an ebook out and some people literally go, I have an ebook out, please go and buy my book. Whereas things like this, and this is the whole purpose of having these spotlights, is that it's more about the relationship between the author, between the reader and the author, and getting to know who you are and the background to it and
Mhm.
interest in you and your writing, and therefore it's I think it's the reason why newsletters do so well, because people
Uh-huh.
sign up
Yeah.
to newsletters and because they're interested in you and your writing. If they were just interested in the book, they'd just go to Amazon and buy the book and that would be
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Whereas they want to know what you're doing, because very few people will have a book out each month, but you're going
Mm.
to have a newsletter each month. So people who sign up to them know that it's not all going to be about you having a new book. It's
Mhm.
oh, I got this idea and I went to this event, and oh, did you see in the news that such and such, and a lot of people don't always send newsletters out about their writing. It might be, I
Mhm.
had a really interesting visit to such and such, and so they're interested in you, the fact that they've signed up in the first place.
Mhm.
Um, and then it's an instant relationship between you and the reader, so that if Facebook and the likes fold, you've still got that, which I think
Yeah,
is how they've, and Substack and all of these again is a kind of
it's so
somewhere
much.
between blogging and newsletter, and there is so much. I'm just taking somebody on to help me with it all because I
Uh-huh.
don't have time. I don't have
Mhm.
time to do it, and we're working out which is the most helpful thing that she can be doing to save my time more than anything else.
Mm.
So that is a bit of a minefield. Um, but there we go. We have to do it. A successful
Yeah.
author is one who didn't give up. So I'm still working on it 2 decades later.
Mhm.
Cheery. So what do you do when you're not writing?
I go to the gym. I walk by the river. I These are, helpful things to give your mind space for new ideas
Yeah.
to creep in. I play walking football.
Okay.
Which is um,
Is that literally as it sounds?
it's literally as it sounds. It's
Right.
football for the elderly.
Okay.
Um, uh, I read. I watch TV dramas. I go for coffee with friends. All kinds of
Busy
things,
life.
really.
People
Yeah.
who retire say they don't know how they ever had time to do things when they were working.
Well, I think I've replaced the work with writing.
Right. Well, that's no bad thing. We can say that's no bad thing here. So up next is you've got a collection of short stories coming out, which we'll talk about in a minute. You have mentioned that you've been writing short stories all along. Is your book, Heroes and Traitors, is it the first in a series? Is it a standalone? Do you
It
know what
is
that is?
it is intended to be the first in a trilogy.
Okay.
I am starting on the sequel. Um, I wasn't sure that I was going to go that way, but one of my beta readers encouraged it.
Okay.
Somebody who's very keen on the fantasy genre, and he said to me, it's got to be a trilogy. You can't just stop after one.
Because
So,
most readers want more. They get to the end, if they enjoy it, they want more.
mhm,
So it does make sense.
yeah.
I have
So,
both. I have series and standalones, but
yeah,
I think
and there's quite a lot of characters in Heroes and Traitors. Most of them based on not based on, but inspired by real historical characters.
mm,
Um, so some of them do obviously have places they can go, but I think I would be inclined to introduce some new ones as well. I think that would help to keep the series fresh.
sure,
Um, so yeah, quite a big project for 2026.
absolutely. So your short story collection,
Yes,
my favourite, as we know, my favourite type of writing, Coffee and Commute. Is that the title or a working title?
that's a working title because I'm going to be picking pieces that will fit into a coffee break or a short train journey like a commute. Um, and the reason for doing so was that, I read that, people with busy lives feel that they don't have time to read. But of course, they are urged to be into mindfulness for good mental health, and the evidence for it is very strong.
Mm,
And there's a thing called mindful reading. So using a short piece of fiction, well, it doesn't have to be fiction, but a short piece,
mm,
to just clear the mind, observe, enjoy particular
mm.
words or phrases. I'm kind of framing the collection in that context, which I hope will help people appreciate that, reading for reading's sake.
Yeah. Well, I top up the local book swap cupboards. I always call them cupboards, but they're bookcases and libraries and all the mixture. And we've just put them in the local train, most of the local, where there's a ticket office. Then we've put these bookcases in, and we trialed one in Aylesbury town centre, and it went so well that the my husband's manager then said, "Yep, we'll have them everywhere." So then we sourced bookcases and people. I just need to put a shout out in the local groups. I've run out of Facebook
Mhm.
groups. I've run out of books. Can I have some more? And then I go around and collect them all. And they drop them off, and I've had emails from people who say I used to spend my commute watching social media and it was so boring, and I used to love reading and now it's got me back into reading, and I
Mhm.
and I try not to put too many. Obviously, it depends the areas and what books I think people will like, and nothing too heavy. Um,
Mhm.
but if they spot something on the way back, then obviously they can take it home. Um,
Mhm.
but a good mixture of things that I think people might like. And they
Yeah,
go
that's a
really
great
well.
idea.
I check up on the local one anyway every couple of weeks or more. And I went a couple of days ago, and one of the shelves was half empty because they're two layer, that particular one. One of the shelves was empty at the front and was fairly leaning at the back. And in theory, it's a book swap, so you bring a book and take a book.
Mm.
But really, it's getting people back into reading, which is what it's all about. And as authors, we love that.
Yes,
We want
indeed.
people to read more. And I think a lot of people were worried about books paperback and hardbacks dying out because of the Kindle. But it's a convenience.
Mm.
But I think it's got more people, especially because the likes of, dare I say, 50 Shades of Grey, people could have a Kindle and then nobody else, unless they were sitting right next to them, could see what they
Yeah.
were reading. So it didn't matter what they were reading. And also the length
I,
of it. It
and
doesn't
I
matter.
did hear a story that adults were putting Harry Potter books
Oh, yeah.
inside other books to hide
Right.
the fact that they were reading a children's book.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's the reason why, JK, why Joanne Kathleen Rowling, get it right, um, went with the JK with her initials because she didn't think boys would read a book about a boy wizard by a woman, by Joanne. I mean, these days it doesn't matter, but back in the day, that's why she went with her
Well, it's
initial.
only the 1990s, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, now I think the 1970s is classed as historical. It's 50 years. So
Well, I can
1975
assure
back.
you, when I used to talk to students not so long ago
Mm,
about the world of work in the 70s and 80s, they
mm.
looked at me as if I walked the earth with dinosaurs.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy,
And
isn't it?
and even I can see it. I can see what they were getting at. It just seems
Mm.
uh, so different from the modern world of work.
It's when you see there are memes and various cartoons and things on Facebook, and every now and then there'll be something that will sort of reflect back in the past. And there's a cartoon, I can't remember the caption, but or it might have even been something real, where they got the old-fashioned telephone with the dial, where you have to pull it down like that, and kids didn't know how to I can't remember exactly what it was, but they have no clue how to use it because
Mm.
it's before their time. But equally, there are certain things. There's the old cliche that whenever we go to visit my in-laws, um, both of them say, "Oh, Tim, while you're here, can you just show me how to do this on my computer?"
Mm.
And so we are still of the generation where we can do that. Or you get your 6-year-old grandson to, or great grandson to help you do something technical. But I think we're somewhere in the middle, so we can hold our own, can't we?
Possibly, yeah.
Yes. To the point, we know what we need to know.
Mm.
Anyway, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you
And
very much, Morgan, for
you're very
inviting me.
welcome. Well, I'm delighted that you'll be joining me at the end of January for the inaugural self-publishing book festival. So there will be more about that on social media and so on. I will be doing a YouTube on that with more details when I have the website up and running. So I shall see you in January, if not before.
Thank you. I'm looking forward
Thank you.
to it.
Okay, thanks very much.